Oh, this is gonna be crazy. That was great. Hello and welcome to another episode of SpraynPray1000's Verdict. I am SpraynPray1000, and basically I will be reviewing and giving my, basically describing my experience with, what episode is this, 23? So today's episode is going to be The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD, okay, for the Nintendo Wii U, and I'm going to be describing my experiences with said game. So what exactly is The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD? Okay, now this is actually a very special case because I believe this is the first, or one of the first games I've reviewed that has actually been out for quite some time from another console generation. The Wind Waker is actually a GameCube game from the Nintendo GameCube that was released in 2002 and 2003. To pretty critical acclaim, you know, despite the initial backlash to its art design, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But it is an HD rehandling of said game, and actually in most ways an HD remake, because it changes a lot of the features of the game, you know, makes it easier and more accessible for people. And makes the game, you know, generally a less, takes out some of the minor annoyances of the game. So what is Wind Waker? Wind Waker is a third-person action-adventure game set in the Legend of Zelda franchise. So you control the main character, whose name is Link, as he tries to stop Ganondorf from enacting his evil plans of world domination. You know, pretty standard stuff. Although in this game takes a twist, okay? This game actually takes place not in Hyrule, but a place called the Great Sea, which is, as the name suggests, a gigantic ocean filled with islands that you have to sail around, you know, to all these different islands in order to accomplish whatever you need to do. So, as Link, you gain a boat, and through this boat, you're able to sail between these different islands. You're also able to, you know, change the wind using the magical item called the Wind Waker, which allows you to play various spells. It's pretty much the musical instrument of the game, similar to the Ocarina of Time. You're also allowed to warp between various spots after a certain point in the game. You're also able to get treasure using a hook, a sea hook that lets you pull stuff up from the bottom of the ocean. You can also mount a cannon for sea combat. There's a lot of stuff you can do, not to mention the fact that once you get on land, you know, you can actually do, you know, swing your sword, use the various items at your disposal, and of course, you know, they have the typical Zelda items such as the hammer, the bow and arrow, the boomerang, the bombs, that's all in there, but there's also some new items, such as the leaf, the grappling hook, you know, all that stuff. So pretty much, this game is actually standard fare if you're a Zelda fan. You kind of know some of the stuff to expect, and then there's also some new stuff added in there that's exclusive to this game. So a lot of changes have come to this game, you know, gameplay-wise, because, you know, it's a remake. It's not the first draft of this game. So, for example, in the original game, what you had to do is, every time you would play a song with the Wind Waker, no matter what song it was, you know, however long it was, you would play the song. You have to input the commands using the C-stick, which, you know, was at the time what we had. And then Link would play the song, the game would confirm you had the song right, and then it would play the song again. Now, they removed that replay, unless it's, you know, unless you're summoning a treasure chest in this game. They removed that in this game. You only have to play songs once. What's also cool is that if you press the start button, I don't know if this was in the original, I can't remember if it was, but if you press the start button, you can actually see the list of songs that are available for you to play. So there's a lot of cool stuff that they added in this game to make it a bit easier for you. You know, the loading times in this game are definitely something that they really changed because, you know, the hardware is different. On the GameCube version, when you were sailing in between islands, and excuse me because they're drilling on the building next door, on the GameCube version, if you were sailing in between islands, it was actually pretty difficult. You know, it would take a while because the GameCube had to unload the island you were just passing from, because each game, you know, the map is divided into 7x7 sectors, you know, 49 different areas. It would have to unload the area you're just leaving, then load up the next area. And it's not like each area has a gigantic island in. No, these islands are small compared to their sectors. So I mean, some islands are big, some islands are tall, you can see them from far away, but for the most part, you know, these islands are pretty small compared to the vast Great Sea. So it would take a long time to load, and that's pretty much what a lot of the sailing was. It was to mask the loading time. Now in this game, because, you know, the Wii U is way more powerful than the GameCube was, that's not necessary anymore. In fact, at one point, I even noticed that it was already loading an island before it unloaded the last island. So that's just a dedication to, you know, how great this game, you know, plays on the Wii U. Just the hardware itself makes this a very great, different experience. So that in and of itself was a major improvement, and that really got me. Now, something else that's really cool is trying to think of all the good stuff that they added. The weapons wheel. Well, first of all, the weapons layout in the original was that you could assign 3 different items, you know, whatever they were, from your inventory to buttons and then use them. You know, similar Zelda stuff. You know, you've been there before. In this game, what you actually do is the Wind Waker is automatically given its own special slot on the D-pad. So therefore, you don't have to play with the D-pad anymore. The D-pad is completely unnecessary. So that is pretty good. That's pretty cool. I like that. And if you're out at sea, you know, the cannon, the grappling hook, they all get automatically assigned to buttons on the D-pad, so you don't have to waste inventory slots on these things while you're out at sea, which is what you had to do in the original. If you wanted to use the cannon, you actually had to assign bombs to a button and then get in the boat. In this game, you just have to, as long as you have the bombs, you just have to press, I believe, left on the D-pad. You'll automatically use them. So, again, you know, the puzzles are pretty much mostly the same, although the locations of some items have been changed. Some for better, some for worse. One item later in the game that lets you see the health bars of enemies, I believe. Again, that's an item that should carry over to New Game Plus, which I believe does not. So that's very disappointing because you literally get it and then that's it. You know, you're at the final boss. You know, what help is that? You know, it doesn't do anything really. It's not that helpful. So, but for the most part, the gameplay has been very, very much improved. I really, really like it. Sailing is definitely more fun. In fact, the sail it's not even an item anymore that you equip to a button. You just press A while in the boat to actually open up the sail. They completely changed that system too. So that in and of itself has been completely revamped. And I just think that, you know, for the most part, everything here is like 90% improvements. You know, I think I said at one point 70. I think at the end it turns out to like 80-85% improvements. So it's good. It's fun. You know, this game is definitely a pleasure to sit down and play. Not to mention the New Game Plus adds bonus stuff such as unlockable costumes. You can translate some of the stuff that's said to you in the game that intentionally the game developers made so you could not understand. So a lot of these conversations are one-sided, but for the most part, this game is definitely a fun experience. Now, the story of this game is pretty much as follows. Link is an average boy on an island, and one day, you know, trouble comes to his island, and unfortunately his sister gets kidnapped. And he sets out, obviously, to rescue her, regardless of the dangers he may encounter. And as the story progresses, he becomes intertwined in this story of this land, or intertwined in this fate of this land called Hyrule. And, you know, what's happening with that, and the return of Ganondorf, the King of Evil. And also the whereabouts of this Princess Zelda, okay? So he gets intertwined in, you know, this whole legend that has come before him, which he has been completely unaware of up until that point. So the story, it's pretty good. The story is not bad, okay? Now, what I will say, though, is the story is very short compared to some of the other Zelda games. What I will say is that there are quite a few fewer dungeons in this game than the average Zelda game. So just off the top of my head to name them, there's 1, 2, 3, I guess 4, you know, this one I kind of count as a half because it's not really a dungeon because you revisit it and then it kind of plays like a dungeon. So about 4.5, 6, 7, so about 7.5 dungeons. Usually Zelda games typically have like 9 or so dungeons. So this game is kind of short, you know, especially if you know what to do. This game is very, very quick. Now, what I will say is that the soundtrack is pretty good. You know, I definitely hear some of the remixing, you know, some of the music has been remastered, made better. You know, so the soundtrack is pretty good as it was, you know, 10 years ago. A lot of catchy tunes, you know, to say the least. You know, a lot of good stuff in that regard. But now what really gets me are the graphics. The graphics. And usually I don't talk about graphics. But here, the art style really, I feel, comes to life on the Wii U. And there's one thing that if I have to talk about, It is the lighting system. The lighting system. The shadows in this game, which were pretty much non-existent in the GameCube version, are amazing. It feels like a whole new different game when you look at the two versions. It is beautiful. It is out of this world. It is exceptional. They excelled in that regard. They did a perfect job in that, in my opinion, of upping the graphics. Now, the only thing I will say is at some points in the game, you will encounter a choppy frame rate. You know, if there's a lot of stuff happening. That is the one pretty much flaw I can think of off the top of my head that's new in this version. Oh, well, there's one other thing. Sometimes, you know, if you're doing like an animation, like the warping animation is very weird because you spin around and the sword actually gets lodged inside Link's face. So a couple of minor overlooks like that. But here's the thing. That thing was actually in the GameCube version, that error. And they didn't fix it. But it's not that big of a deal. You know, it's just a quick thing, a quick 2-second. You notice it, it's like, oh, haha, that's funny. The Master Sword is merging with his face, and that's really kind of it. So it's nothing too game crippling. You know, there's no game crippling bugs, not that I encounter. Nothing nothing horrifying you'll find. So the graphics, though, just take a look at the GameCube version. Take a look at a picture of the GameCube version, and then take a look at what they've done with it. Take a look at the difference. So it's just amazing, in my opinion. I just feel that they really did a lot of great stuff. So, ultimately, what would I give Zelda, Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD? I would give it a 92 out of 100. You know, and this is a must-buy if you have a Wii U. So this is definitely not a wait. This is not a rent. This is a buy. You should buy this game because this game is very well done. Even the original GameCube version was very well done. The initial backlash to it was very horrifying and, you know, very, very harsh because people were expecting a more realistic Zelda. But ultimately, this game, some people say this is the best Zelda game ever made. It's the most realized game world. Some people say that this is the best Zelda and they'll never top it. This is just the definitive Zelda experience. You know, it's not personally my favorite, but, you know, the original actually was kind of lower on my list of favorite Zeldas. This is my second favorite HD Zelda, just behind Twilight Princess for the GameCube. Because this Zelda is so great. The HD remake is so good. It's just really, as I've said before, you know, having played the original 10 years ago when I was a kid, you know, I was 10 years younger, or however many years it's been, you know, playing this now is just such a great feeling. It's just such a great game, reborn in such a different way for a different console. So I will give it a 92 proudly, because I know this game is very good. That being said, you know, it still has a lot of the flaws of the original, such as it's short. You know, it feels like they could have thrown in a couple more real dungeons. You know, a lot of times the sailing and stuff is kind of repetitive. Not as repetitive, you know, because it loads faster in this version. But for the most part, it's been fixed. It's a bit better. It's more of a well-rounded experience. So a 92 out of 100. Good job, Nintendo. Good job, Zelda team. You know, again, you wow me, and I can't wait to see what you do for Zelda Wii U. And in fact, later on this year, I can't wait to see what you do for A Link Between Worlds. So that's it for this review of Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD. Definitely a must-have if you have a Wii U. I know that game library has been starving and itching for more content. So definitely, you'll relish in the opportunity to play a game like this. And it's available on both the eShop and in retail format. So take care, you know, keep an eye out for this game because it's definitely an experience you don't want to miss. It's meant to be played through twice, you know, and each time you'll find a very refreshing experience. So I'm SpraynPray1000. I thoroughly enjoyed going back to a blast from the past. I thoroughly enjoyed that, you know, reliving my childhood again, or at least a fragment of my childhood. So I hope you guys enjoyed the playthrough. I hope you guys enjoy the game, is what I really hope you do, because this game is really good. So I'll see you guys next time, and take care. Enjoy.